Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Dr. Mike here. Today I want to talk about what we consider the proper human diet. It's an exciting time. We've got the new administration. We have RFK Jr. Trying to sort out why we have such a chronic disease problem in this country, the obesity. It's not really complicated. It's actually pretty simple to figure out. There's a lot of things that people are eating today that they simply shouldn't. So, I think you can divide it up into kind of three categories. You have the things that you should eat that are excellent for you to eat. You have the things that you can eat, okay? As a human being, we're omnivores, obviously. And then you have the things that you should never eat. And if we can stop eating the things that we should never eat and stick to the things we should eat with only a little bit of the things we can eat, we're going to be a lot better off as a species. So proper human diet. This can be a very, very contentious thing to talk about. It really shouldn't be. Evolutionarily speaking, how did humans get here? Now, I know people don't have the time, and of course, you're never getting this in school, to talk about. At one time, we had a common ancestor with the apes. We were all hominins. We went this way, they went that way. We moved from the jungles to the savannas. They stayed in the trees. They eat 40, 50, 60 pounds of leaves a day. Obviously, some have evolved to eat meat and other things. We began to scavenge. That's how our brains first started to get bigger. We know that human beings have a very acidic stomach as we evolved, okay, as we came about. We learned how to scavenge from animals. Obviously, you have lions and tigers and bears in these places. In Africa, of course, you had a lot of big predators. A lot of them aren't around anymore, but plenty of predators. It must have been difficult for a small 4-foot-tall human being, or the beginnings of a human being, to make their way in Africa. And of course, there's been plenty of research done that shows we almost didn't make it, that we got down to a very small amount of humans. And then we got lucky and things turned a little bit, down to a few thousand of us, such thing. Anyway, proper human diet. We started out as plant eaters for the most part. As time went on, we learned how to scavenge. As we learned how to do that more, as we ate more meat, more animal protein, our brains began to grow and get bigger and bigger, okay? And then along the way, we learned how to fish. And when we learned how to fish, I think that's when the intelligence of human beings really started to take off. The combination of a dense source of protein and fats in red meat and animal protein, combined with the essential fatty acids, the EPA and the DHA you find in fish. I think when those two came together in our history, that's when the lights turned on and we became Homo sapiens. We became thinkers. So humans are omnivores, okay? We can eat both animal protein, we can eat fish, we can eat plants. That's pretty much a given. No one's claiming that we're not omnivores. Obviously, the human diet today is an omnivorous, is an omnivore type diet. You can anything from, you can eat red meat and pork and chicken and all of those, and you can also eat plant-based food and survive. I don't think you can thrive on a plant-based diet. It's very hard. Okay, so evolutionarily speaking, we started to scavenge, we started eating more meat, our stomach acid began to drop. We didn't need a 4 or a 5, we got down to about a 1.5, which is a very acidic stomach. A lot of the scavenger birds have an even lower acidic level. They're like a 1 because they're eating a lot of meat that's been rotting. There's a lot of disease going on, and if they didn't have really strong stomach acid to kill any of those bacteria in the meat, they wouldn't last very long. So we began to scavenge. Then as our brains got bigger, we started to think a little bit more, and we started throwing rocks at animals. We started throwing, obviously, spears, anything we could throw at these large, they call them fauna, megafauna. These were the really large animals thousands of years ago that roamed the African plain and really the world. And so there's the bow and arrow, of course, came along a little bit later. But as we evolved to hunt, now we began to eat more and more animal products. And this is what really allowed us to kind of flourish and eventually to move out of Africa. What I'm trying to say is human beings are not here because we found a really good source of bean sprouts or spinach or any of those things. Those things can be consumed, but that's not what got us here. Okay, what got us to this place where we're talking to each other over this camera is red meat in all of its forms. That's what got us here. So let's not forget that. What about red meat? Now, again, I don't care what kind of diet you eat. If you want to do the carnivore diet, the Atkins, the zero sugar, the keto, that's up to you. You make an informed decision. You're an intelligent adult. You come to the decision that you want to be a vegan. You don't want to see animals harmed. No problem with me. You do whatever you want. Just don't ask me to eat nothing but plants. Okay? It just, I personally feel that's not the way to go. I eat a meat-based diet. I do eat some vegetables. I happen to really like romaine lettuce and a couple other things, so I'll throw that in. I try and cut out all of the processed food, again, as they're trying to get people to do that more. So that's where we are with that. That's how we got here. Let's not forget that. So let's talk about red meat a little bit. And again, red meat, pork, fish, all of these things, chicken, turkey, all of the wild birds. I'd like to put all those kind of together in a meat-based diet, okay? But the foundation was red meat. And most of it was game animals. It's only for a short while we've been herding cows together. The Plain Indians used to chase buffalo off a cliff and then just go down and process the meat after. That was one of the ways they killed buffalo. So we've been eating meat. For as long as there have been human beings, we've been eating meat. Don't deny it. Don't say we haven't. That is the truth. We've got radioisotope studies from human teeth from thousands and thousands of years ago from Neanderthals showing that human beings are meat eaters and always have been. We've been eating meat for as long as we've been drinking water. In fact, as I said, the reason we're here talking is because of meat consumption. That is how we managed to enlarge our brains, enlarge our structures, and get out of Africa and move through Europe and then, of course, the rest of the world. Let's talk about whether or not red meat is a danger, because this is something you see all the time. All the time. A couple of years ago, there was a huge meta-study that came out where they looked at a bunch of other studies to see if they were properly conducted. Wherever you have human beings, you have mistakes being made. So these studies that have looked at meat through the years, the biggest problem with these studies is they're observational studies in a lot of ways. They have people write down what they ate, and then they look at that. And the problem with that is that people not only have a bad memory, with that and what they actually ate, the things that they consider meat is ridiculous in these studies. You take a look yourself. Like if you have a hot dog, that's considered meat. But what about the bun and the condiments? A burger, the same thing. Well, what about the bun? What about the French fries? If they ate lasagna is considered a meat product. So there's all kinds of problems with these so-called studies. But when they did this analysis, what they found was there is simply no evidence that links red meat, fresh red meat, to cancer, fresh red meat to heart disease, fresh red meat to diabetes, okay? You can't tell me the thing that got us here, meat, is also what's killing us. It just doesn't make any sense. At least I don't think it makes any sense. What they did find is that processed meats, the association between processed meats and different things that ail the human race, there was some association with them. And there are different reasons for that. There's a lot of salt, there's nitrates, there's things that they have tried to link with it. There are things that combine together that cause a problem in some of these processed meats. I don't know anybody that lives on cold cuts, but I guess you could do that. And if you do that, you're going to have a problem. Or you might have a problem. And again, everybody's a little bit different. So some people can eat all of the processed roast beef they want and they don't have any problem. Their body clears. As other people have a small amount of something and their hands swell up from the sodium. It's just how human beings are. What they did find, and I think one of the reasons they try and link all these things in together is you have a push in the world to subjugate people. They want you eating what they want you to eat. And I don't want to necessarily name these people. You've got these billionaires running around, want you to eat bugs. They own a lot of farmland, so they want you eating farmed product versus cattle or things like that. Global warming with cattle, it's all a bunch of nonsense. The amount of global warming greenhouse gases that come from cattle and this type of thing, this regenerative farming, is minimal compared to what happens with the rest of the world, okay? Now, the one thing you do have to worry about with meat is if you, and by worry I mean pay attention to, is if you char meat to the point that it's burned. If you take a steak and you're not eating it medium rare or medium, you're taking it and you're literally cooking it until the outside's completely charred and it's completely well done. Now, there are harmful things that can come from overcooked meat. You've got advanced glycation products in it. You've got heterocyclic amines. I believe there's a bunch of things, you can look them up, that come from overcooked meat. But I mean, you have to be trying to overcook the meat. How do you avoid them? If you like to grill, which I do, don't overcook the meat. If you want to put something in a crock pot, you want to put a marinade on it, there's all kinds of things you can do to prevent some of these things from causing a problem. Okay, so if you're going to cook red meat, if you're going to grill, just don't burn it. In nature, what are you going to be eating? You're going to be eating what you can kill, what you can find. I know a lot of these indigenous tribes eat tubers, which are like potatoes, these kinds of things out of the ground, but very, very, very little products that contain sugar/carbohydrates. And of course, there are no essential carbs. You've got your essential amino acids. There's 9 of them, or depending on who you talk to, between 8 and 10. You've got the 2 essential fatty acids, omega-6s and 3s, but no essential carbohydrates. Humans can perform quite well in ketosis, which is when you're burning ketones, when you're in, say, fasting, you're doing carnivore or an Atkins. That's the idea behind it. You're going to shift from burning sugar to burning fat for fuel. So, is it safe to go on a carnivore, keto, one of these types of diet sugar busters? Sure, I've done it. I did like an Atkins style diet years ago when I was weight training a lot, and I have to admit, that 3rd or 4th day I felt very tired. You start to make that transition, but once that happened, I felt fine. In fact, you feel really, really good when your brain is burning ketones instead of sugar. It's a good feeling. So just keep that in mind, okay? The other great thing about protein is that it can't be stored as fat. They have done numerous studies where they have pumped bodybuilders full of huge amounts of protein, 300, 400 grams a day, and it does not get stored as body fat. This is why when you go on a ketogenic diet, whatever one you're going to be on, you have to make sure you eat a lot of fat. Okay, that fat is what you're using for fuel, and the protein is going toward growing your hair and your skin and all the hormones and all of the other enzymes and all these things in your body. You need to feed that with the protein. And of course, meat contains all of the essential amino acids. It contains a bunch of the unessential ones too. But that's the only place you're going to find that profile is animal products. You're not going to find that in vegetables only, and you're certainly not going to find any B12, another big problem, and iron is another problem. So just keep that in mind. You can eat this type of a diet, and of course, when you do that, a lot of times you'll lose weight. It's very difficult to put on weight, not impossible, but very difficult to put weight on doing a ketogenic diet. Your insulin is low, which is the storage hormone. You're not getting these giant sugar spikes. You tend to eat less because you got more satiety. Especially on a carnivore diet, you're going to eat less. I think there's also a certain amount of boredom that occurs. When you're eating nothing but, say, meat and eggs, it's not like you've got that next meal and you're looking forward to sushi. You're looking forward, you're going to become less addicted to all of the modern food items that you've been exposed to. So I think that's a big part of it as well. But certainly after a few weeks, once you get into ketosis and you start to burn nothing but fat, you'll really lean out. And of course, losing body fat has a tremendous positive effect on the body. That's something else that's a whole nother show, a whole nother episode talking about the things that happen when you take the body fat off you. So just to recap, okay? Human beings evolved on meat and that source of protein, whether it was a zebra, a gazelle, or a cow. That is what we evolved on. Then as we got bigger and stronger and smarter, we began to fish. I think that is what really began to accelerate our brains. The bigger your brain is a omega-3 hog. I mean, almost all of huge amounts. When you consume omega-3 products, they go right to the brain. In fact, they're using high doses of omega-3s, DHA specifically, to treat mental illness, schizophrenia, things like that. Some of the most severe mental illnesses have been improved with high doses of DHA in people, which is, fantastic. I mean, something non-drug that works, okay? So that's what got us here. Now, you don't necessarily have to consume only meat. If you're consuming meat, I've said this to patients over the years, nobody ever got fat eating broccoli or cauliflower or bean sprouts, okay? Vegetables have their own problems. You've probably heard of the anti-nutrients and things like that, and that's another show. But if the center mass of your plate, and this is sort of how I eat for the most part, this is how I do it. The main part of 95% of my calories come from meat or fish or pork, red meat. The peripheral items could be romaine lettuce, some kind of salad, olive oil and vinegar, a little bit of that, maybe some cheese. I do eat some other vegetables beside that, not many. I do occasionally like to eat fresh berries. I'll try and find blueberries. I'll try and find some fresh blackberries. I do like them. Strawberries even sometimes. I stay away from the more sugary stuff. Just don't need it. So if you do that, if you put the meat product as the center of your plate, the unprocessed meat, a steak, chopped meat, chicken, turkey, pork, fish, that is the center. That's 95% of the calories on your plate with, say, a small salad, something simple, some olive oil, some vinegar, maybe a little Parmesan cheese, something. If you do that, not only are you going to get all the vitamins and minerals that you need, you're going to keep the weight off, you're going to keep the insulin spikes down, you're going to be in a great way. So that's it for today. Just sort of an overview. We're going to get more specific in shows to come, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, drop them into the comment section below. I'll do my best to get to them. And welcome to the channel. And if you enjoyed this content, of course, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'm kind of new to all of it. So, do all those things that will keep you informed. Again, we're going to be covering all things health related, just like my bio says. We're going to be talking about nutrition overall. We're going to be talking about different types of diets. We're going to be talking about exercise, of course. Talk about supplementation, what's needed, how much is needed, when you need it, if you need it, all of those things. So stay tuned. All right, I'll see you next time.